Hello and welcome to the Join Dota League Season 3 here on twitch.tv/HeflaTV, the third English HeflaTV stream. Well, this is going to be a best of 3 between xGame KZ and the Power Rangers. It's the finals of the EU division of the Join Dota League, but there is only going to be 2 games today. If there is a third game necessary, it will be played tomorrow. That's because both teams have previous obligations to other tournaments, and it was just the best way to sort all of the scheduling issues out so that they could play as fast as possible. We will be streaming the Power Rangers next game, which will be
reserve time
in the Yard Red Festival over on the ESFX stream, because that's the stream that is promoted by the Yard Red Festival. So as for this game, it is going to be at least 2 games between these 2 teams. And, well, the first bans are already out. The draft is looking pretty different from what we're used to seeing. Although, as the meta starts developing, this might become more standard. Although I think these are more team-specific bans than anything. Death Prophet Terrorblade taken out by xGame KZ, and Augustar and Magnus taken out by Power Rangers. Throughout the entirety of this stream, I'll try to make sure that there are no technical issues going on that can be problematic. But very well, that's just how it's going to be. We are running on all cylinders here at HeflaTV. Currently, we're juggling between 5 different streams today, as well as 3 different tournaments, so it's a bit hectic. But either way, first pick Brewmaster coming out from the Power Rangers. No big surprises there. Brewmaster still a really potent hero, despite being changed around a little bit. Still offers pretty much the same thing the Brewmaster always did. Although his early game slightly hit, it is very minor as far as to what that actually changes about the hero. Probably going to be the mid laner for Power Rangers, although that could be switched around. Let's see. It looks like both teams are running with their entire lineup, despite having stand-in tags on Ouija's Zik and Nexus. That is their official lineup, at least for the Join Dota League Season 3. And as far as xGame, I believe the third player is Stallcat. He has Leet-speaked his name, which is really annoying to read, but either way, that is Stallcat. So yeah, everybody is exactly where they're supposed to be. Both teams are eating through the reserve time quite heavily. I haven't had the pleasure to cast these teams for quite some time, although we are going to see Rubik, Center, Warner, the first 2 pickups for xGame. Heroes that they're incredibly comfortable with. Reeves on his Rubik is on one of his bread and butter heroes, and Stallcat Centaur Warner is also pretty solid as well. Or they could switch around that Centaur. Either way, xGame, they're setting up for a pretty aggressive start here. Lift into the stun from Centaur Warner if they're laning together, or if they're ganking the Centaur's lane is a pretty potent combo, and even if they're not laning together, already some decent lockdown coming from those 2.
5 seconds.
Yep, so, just catching up to the stream delay, and we should have a pretty exciting game on our hands. Both of these teams, as far as their last 4 matches that are on record on Join Dota, are currently 2-2 in their last 4 games. I believe it was Power Rangers to take the last series 2-0, and then the previous ones were both 1-0s by xGame. But either way, this could be either team's game, although I'd say I favor Power Rangers slightly. It's only just. On a good day, either of these teams could completely wipe out the enemy, and we are working with a new patch. I haven't seen either of these teams play on 6.82b, so that is going to be something pretty interesting to see. Shadow Demon, the next snag up for Power Rangers. It could just be a rogue Shadow Demon, although it might be forcing out the bans of the likes of your Invoker or probably your Mirana. Either way, just some solid stuns to follow up with it. Kunkka could also be something that Power Rangers have in mind with this Shadow Demon. Defensively up against the Centaur, it's pretty good, as his animations are fairly telegraphed. You can stop them with the disruption on them, or you can defensively disrupt if things really hit the fan. Luna the Band coming out from xGame. Also another hero that would have paired pretty nicely with that Shadow Demon. Making those illusions of Luna is wonderful for sieging high ground. As well as just having that little extra bit of pushing power. Both of the heroes synergize pretty well together, and it's definitely a respectable ban. Agent Apparition banned out by Power Rangers, also another hero that xGame are incredibly comfortable with, and once you get that level 6, the global tanking potential coming out from a Centaur plus an Agent Apparition is pretty strong. Blink Hoof Stomp double edge with an AA ulti flying on top of all of that is more or less a guaranteed kill, unless somebody is ridiculously tanky. Brewmaster might be able to survive through that. Worst case scenario, forcing out the split. But either way, Visage the next ban from xGame, and the Mirana is still available, as is the Invokers. So Power Rangers, pretty much all of their Shadow Demon combos are available to them, should they want to take those up. The Visage ban makes sense to me, as I believe Power Rangers have been experimenting a little bit with Drow Ranger in their lineups. Despite having a Brewmaster on their team, I think it's perfectly acceptable to go for a Drow Ranger lineup with only 3 or 4 ranged heroes, as having that extra beefy tank on the front lines, the Brewmaster absorbing a lot of the hate coming out from xGame, would be very beneficial, and just making the havoc in the team fight that's going to make Drow Ranger just an all-around better pick. Without the Visage, going for the Drow is not very attractive by any stretch of the imagination. xGame, I wouldn't be surprised by pretty much any pick here. Honestly, they could go in whatever direction they want to, with Rubik and Centaur first two as their snags. Let's see. I believe I have changed those commands on the stream, although they are currently being overridden. That is completely fine. But yeah, hopefully there aren't any technical issues right now. We're smooth sailing throughout this game as we're waiting for xGame to snag up their next hero. 45 seconds on the reserve time. They're taking their time with this next pick. They could go for the Mirana for themselves. Combos pretty well with the Rubik, and if they don't want Power Rangers to get their hands on it, it's not a bad pick by any stretch of the imagination. But then again, they might have something completely different in mind. Earthshaker's still available in pool. Skywrath Mage is in the pool and might be their hero of choice. Combos very well with the Centaur. Rubik is also pretty good with Skywrath Mage, and combos well up against the Brewmaster, adding that extra single target silence as well as burst damage. But instead, xGame are going to go for the Ogre Magi. Another incredibly aggressive support, and it's going to make their roaming potential very strong. Lift into the follow-up Ignite as well as Fire Blaster. Going to be fairly easy for xGame to set up kills around the map, especially if they're ganking the Centaur's lane, but even if not, if they have any amount of follow-up from that third hero, xGame are going to be able to use this Ogre Magi to great effect. Puck the next hero for xGame. A lot of control. I think this last hero for xGame needs to be a tad greedy. They just need some way to carry through this game. Blink Daggers are going to be crucial for xGame. A lot of mobility coming out from Puck as well as Centaur. Rubik as well as Ogre Magi are going to benefit fairly heavily from the Stampede. But honestly, their time to shine is at the very early portions of the game. Ogre Magi, I'd love to see them get boots first on this hero, just run at them, fire blast them, and I don't know, just be nomadic. Always be roaming around those lanes. Puck, despite not offering the most to a gank, if you catch out the likes of a Shadow Demon, it's a fairly easy kill. If you're able to stun lock him, the lift into Fire Blast should secure the kill onto the Shadow Demon. Viper the next pickup for Power Rangers, presumably their third core, potentially a roaming Shadow Demon Mirana. Is going to offer them a little bit more frontline tank for Power Rangers. A solid pickup in its own right. Viper right now going for Mechanism is a little bit sketchier than it was previously, as the extra mana cost is really going to hurt Viper by quite a large margin, although it's still viable, and it might be their Mechanism carrier. If not Power Rangers, it's just going to be a tanky frontliner getting that Aghanim Scepter. It's not going to be the most effective as far as keeping people in place because of the Centaur Ultimate, but after the Centaur Ultimate's worn off or has been used, very good at cutting the likes of the Ogre Magi, Rubik, Centaur Warner, and potentially this third hero, or third core, I should say, for xGame.
10 seconds to go.
Their last hero, I don't know exactly where xGame are going to lane. Puck and Centaur are fairly interchangeable in that respect. One of them could go the off lane, could be a safe lane farming Centaur, could be an aggressive tri-lane. Either of these options are all looking pretty good. The Lifestealer ban is pretty nice. Up against xGame, there's no way for them to actually lock down the Rage very effectively. If they want to do so, they're going to have to time the Mirana arrow perfectly, and it's just not that great. Viper Strike, it will slow the Lifestealer, and you'll be able to kite him very effectively, but they have plenty of ways to drop the Lifestealer in the middle of the team fights and have him wreak havoc if he does get off to an early start. So, a respectable ban, although I would have liked to see xGame go for something a tad more greedy. We'll see what xGame have in mind, and we're going to see it fast. It's going to be Weaver. I actually really like this pick coming out from xGame. Usually I'm one to be on the fence about the Weaver, but currently the true lockdown for Weaver is very lackluster. Outside of the arrow, Weaver's going to have a wonderful time. The Drunken Haze might be very annoying for Weaver, but he should be able to disjoint that anyway. it's going to be really hard to lock this bug down, especially if he gets up one defensive item and a damage item. That's all that this Weaver's really going to need to completely wreak havoc. Doesn't care one bit about the Viper's slows,
10 seconds to go.
and should have a pretty good time. Right now, Power Rangers,
5 seconds.
I'm not sure what they're going to be able to do about this Weaver. Kunkka might be a decent choice, but oh, we're gonna see the Meepster himself. Meepo, last pick for Power Rangers. As far as Meepo games, it's not the worst by any stretch of the imagination. Meepo, could actually work out. It's going to be Shaxwell Meepo, and I'm excited to see it. I've actually never seen him play Meepo before, and myself is pretty big Meepo fan. Love playing the hero, especially at my low pub level, and what have you. But that said, on the Radiant side, it is going to be the Power Rangers. We're going to start off with the traditional pause, but that will give us time to introduce our players and the heroes that they are on, with Shashlo playing on that last pick, Meepo. I'll probably touch on after we get through this pause. Cheshire Cat playing in the Brewmaster, We Just Zik on the Shadow Fiend, J4 on the Marana. Leaving last but not least in the Radiant Nexus on the Viper. On the Dire side, we are going to have xGame with Skullcap playing on the Centaur, Warner Reeves on the Rubik, Wadafaka on the Puck, Mantis on the Weaver, and Equal on the Ogre Magi. I'll take this time to go ahead and take a look at the chat and make sure that everything is going smoothly. And into the game we go. So yeah, this Meepo. Some people might think that the experience changes and the changes to snowballing really hurt Meepo, but honestly, he can still snowball at the same rate that he did previously. Meepo generally a hero that starts off on the back foot, and as long as you're able to get those early items, it can still function as the same old Meepo. Right now, the lockdown for the Meepo is definitely there. Fire Blast, Lift, Hoof Stomp from the Centaur are all going to be very problematic for the Meepo to deal with. But then again, this Meepo could definitely get off to a good start. Bursting down the Rubik, Ogre Magi, Centaur, heck, even the Puck is going to be fairly easy for the Meepo. Weaver is going to be difficult until you see a Scythe of Ice on Chashlo, which probably isn't going to be coming until about 30 minutes or so, which is unfortunate for the Meepo. And then even then, if the Weaver has a Lincoln Sphere or anything along those lines, it'll be very hard to lock down the Weaver anyway. That said, I'm very psyched to see Meepo. I'm gonna go ahead and check out let's see, only 390 successful Earthbinds. That's actually not that much. Definitely a comfortable Meepo player, though. It's a pretty nice set. Oh, I'll give him that. Oh, this is acceptable. Let's see. I don't know, I wish teams would communicate a little bit more before the pauses. This is quite possibly one of the hardest things to do as a caster, is to stall time solo while we're waiting for everybody to get in. And as soon as I mention that, we are going to see Marana's beautiful face jump back into this game, as J4 is going to reconnect fully. If we take a look at how these lanes are going to break down, it looks like that's going to be an off lane Brewmaster with mid Meepo, starting with Poor Man's Shield first, akin to what you'd see a mid Phantom Assassin starting out with. Definitely could work out for Sheshlo, although it will delay the bottle if that's going to be something he's interested in. 2 Tangos definitely could be zoned out fairly easily, but then again, Poor Man's Shield is going to be useful for him. Puck is still starting out with that Null Talisman, so going to be operating with similar items, and Outlast hitting the Meepo is going to be fairly easy. It is going to be roaming Marana as well as Shadow Demon. Let's see, the ganks on the other side. Puck is not the easiest to lock down with that combo unless you get the arrow inside his model. Phase shift dodging outside of the arrow and then Illusory Orb away will more than likely keep the Puck safe. Weaver also a fairly elusive hero, pretty similar story as far as how that works. Eventually they might get themselves some more detection. They have sentries, which would be nice, but might not be enough. Currently J4 moving around through his camps, just making sure no wards are coming out. Currently the ward has been placed by the Dire side. I believe this does block the pole camp here. At least I think so. Also giving them vision, at the very least, of the supports rotations. It is going to be an aggressive tri-lane coming out from xGame. I doubt this is going to stay the way things are in the bottom, as these supports are probably going to be doing quite a bit of roaming. Although at the early portions, putting some pressure onto this tri-lane coming out from PR is definitely going to help out the Centaur's time. The Meepo's not going to be the safe lane farmer as they eat through the trees. Not finding the Fire Blast just yet. It is boots first on the Ogre, however, as the Hoof Stomp goes away of J4. They secure themselves the Bounty Rune. Arrow to fly, going to land squarely on Reeves' face. Reeves is going to start being tagged by those poison attacks and taking a lot of damage from the Viper. Might be our first blood, one more auto attack. Nexus draws it. J4 is being pursued by the Ogre as well on the sidelines, but Equal might fall as well. J4 turtling through the trees is going to fall to one more bop of Equal's mighty club, and Equal running away with those boots first. The poison attack slows might not be enough as they're still pursuing him. I'm not sure if this is the wise move, but now with Shashflo rotating in, he's going to get the poof damage, or will he? No, he's not. The disruption comes out. Where's the poof? Shashflo is going to look for the block. It's not going to happen. There you go. With the illusions, it's going to be enough. And from the high ground, double poof, and now going to be a double kill. No, Meepo draws that, and Shashflo going to be very happy with that extra bit of gold, although missing a good chunk of the first wave, as well as wasting a lot of their time. Not sure if it's entirely worth it for PR, although they do get the first blood, so all said and done, going to be a beneficial trade for them. Go comes up from Shashflo as we have another false pause. Our top lane is going to be Weaver up against the Brewmaster. Definitely can handle this lane pretty effectively by himself, and will probably continue to do so through the majority of this game. We'll Shikushi through a couple of these creeps, and the harass going the way of the Brewmaster is going to be very annoying for him to deal with. Currently mid, there's going to be a stun the way of Wadafaka eating a very long arrow. The double poof, they need a little bit more damage. He's going to jaunt towards the right, and will survive with very low HP. With just the arrow, it's probably not enough if Meepo is level 3, or maybe even if he had a net. I don't think he can phase shift outside of net. Then again, let's see. Equal is going to show his face in mid. That's a little bit of pressure on the Shashflo. Wadafaka is probably going to be fine. Arrow's going to fly, going to land squarely onto Equal. There is going to be a poof securing a last hit, as well as some damage onto Equal. They can't get that last hit onto the Ogre as they go very aggressively onto him, slowing him down. Puck going to jaunt to that orb, right-clicking down Shashflo. For all their worth, they need a little bit more damage. One more auto attack from the Puck, one more from the Ogre is going to secure it. Equal is going to give up his life, but definitely worthy trade if he gets the Meepo. He's going to stun up J4, start waddling his way away. J4's not fast enough. He does have another arrow to throw the way of Equal, however. Let's see if this is going to land, or if he's going to go for it. The arrow is going to fly. Equal is going to nicely dodge that one. It is going to delay some time. They're still not able to get in range. We just take no boots on him either, and Equal is going to be able to swagger his way on that Ogre. Centaur left solo versus the Viper is not going to have a very fun time, but then again, he's actually not being shut down as much as you might think. Yeah, Viper only level 3, 1 point in the corrosive, 1 point in all of his spells, in fact. Centaur is still getting 6-1. I'd say that's more or less a win, although it's not going to be very fun as this game progresses and the Viper gets up some more levels, especially up into his corrosive skin. It's going to make the Centaur's life pretty hard. Shashflo, with now his level 3 as well, Divided We Stand is completely online. Having the double Meepos is going to send one towards the stack. It is going to get there in a successful time, although wasting a little bit as it sits over there. Is going to be able to get those stacks off for the Meepo, and this is one of the strengths of running Meepo mid, is that you are able to simultaneously stack your own jungle while you do go for those the farm in mid as well. So a lot of farm acceleration coming out from Shashflo, and it's looking to be a pretty good game. He does have the bottle online after the poor man's shield, the valiant timing for him. As we see up top, potentially a disruption to arrow. They don't throw the arrow just yet, but the curse is going to land on Reeves. Will the right clicks be enough? They're going to lift back J4. The right clicks, they are going to be there. As Fateful comes through with his dying breath, it's not going to be enough. Mantis going to be tagged by an arrow. He's trying to get down the kill on the Shadow Demon. It's not going to be enough. It's now Cheshire Cat and Mantis are stuck inside the corner. It's going to be Cheshire Cat coming out on top, but only barely, as the creeps are doing a large number on a Cheshire Cat. They rotate back in Reeves. Not able to chase down this Brewmaster yet, and I think he's going to survive. Will the jukes be enough, however? If Puck as much as shows his face towards this Brewmaster, he's going to follow. He might just be looking for a neutral deny. There you go. Cheshire Cat going to find it, or will he? The dodges are not going to be enough to save out. There you go. Centaur is going to be able to get that one off. Ooh, a fairly close call for either side. Viper down and bottom taking a lot of damage from the rotation of the Ogre. As we look at that fight recap, it's just going to show us the Brewmaster death, which is unfortunate. I would have liked to see a little bit more. The Brewmaster didn't buy anything before he died, so this is about 120 gold, but better than giving that away to the enemy team. Sure. Not sure what the actual kill score is at the end of the day. But a fairly hectic engagement to say the least. Probably not favoring either side very heavily. Shachlo getting the bounty rune on his main Meepo, as he's also probably delivering the boots. There's your brown boots. Now Shachlo is going to be quite a bit happier with how things are going. Shadowden gets a kill on the Ogre Chai. I didn't see how that happened, but I presume it was just the disruption into the arrow, landing squarely onto the Ogre, leading towards the kill. It's going to be a nice kill going the way of these two supports, although not the most important. It's going to tie up this kill score 5-5 at almost 5 minutes into the game. A fairly active rotations coming out from both of the sports. Weaver has more or less been left alone after dying and being involved in those two kills. Doing fine up against the Brewmaster, suffice it to say. The Meepo stack is currently only at a double stack, and he's going to look to make it a triple. Let's see, it is going to happen as the Viper's gone down to the bottom. My goodness. Oh, sorry about this, guys. We are going to have equal as well as Stallcat securing that kill and now smoking up directly. This is going to be a very aggressive rotation, potentially looking for the kill on the Meepo. So yeah, it is going to give a little bit of an edge towards xGame. These aggressive heroes, talked about it a little bit in the draft, as the Brewmaster is going to get the kill onto the Rubik up in top as I was watching the smoke. Man, I just can't catch a break, I suppose. Stallcat and Equal are going to be potentially looking for this Meepo kill. The stacking Meepo is currently going towards top, looking for a gank, potentially on the Weaver, going to be poofing towards mid as he goes aggressively onto the puck. Dreamcold going to commit to Shack, so he gets the secondary poof, but doesn't do damage. Another Fire Blast, double edge, secures the kill on the Meepo in mid. I'm not sure if he would have saved himself by playing passively. If he had one of those Meepos in the jungle, it would have been caught out by Ogre and Centaur either way. But still, both teams are fighting back very valiantly. Punch here, punch there, and it's going to be returned in mid this time, going the way of the Meepo. It's fairly early to start thinking about the drafts, as we do have an arrow that's going to miss onto Mantis, not even forced to Shikuchi or time-lapse or anything of the sort. Mantis makes it back under the safety of his tower, presumably looking towards the Lincoln Sphere. Yeah, Meepo in mid is not going to be terrible after that death. Does still have his stack to fall back on, which actually failed that third stack. Currently only 2 in there. Ogre Magi going to bump into one of the Meepos as he goes for the Bounty Rune. Shashlo is going to be stunned up by the Fire Blast, although the Bounty Rune is still going to go the way of Shashlo, and does bottle up before, and that Fire Blast does very little to nothing. It's now Equal going to eat quite a bit of harass for Nexus. He shouldn't die here, as there's 3 points in the Corrosive Skin. Now going to turn for the Fire Blast. Doesn't land on Shashlo inside the trees. He does have the Centaur ultimate to back him up, as Nexus is trying to juke. Shashlo is going to bump into Reeves and companies. He does get the first damage off, and now looking for the double poof as the Viper's being brought down by the Ogre. Reeves is going to fall and return a 1-for-1 trade, as in the meantime, we are going to lose the Shadow Demon to the Weaver up in top lane. Fight recap is going to benefit xGame, although not entirely heavily, or, although not, oh my goodness, by such a large margin, I should say. Still anybody's game. 7 minutes in, we're going to take a look at the initial goal graphs. It's slightly towards xGame, although not very significant. Similar in the experience, 1500 and 750 is up on top. We are going to see a clap going the way of Cheshire Cat as well as an arrow, but the invis on Mantis is going to keep him safe, despite him not being safe as the Meepo down in bottom is going to fall. The jump forward from Wadafaka is not going to net them anything. It was actually more or less defensive. Yeah, these teams all around the map. 7-10, it's 7.5 minutes in. Higher than 2 kills a minute. This is a pretty crazy game already. Split online for the Brewmaster. I don't think he's used it yet, but the potential is there. This is probably where they're going to look for the next kill. The inseparable combo of Ouija as well as J4 potentially looking for an arrow up in top. Mantis as well as Reeves smell something's up as they try to get vision. They're not going to spot out Mantis, but he is using Shikuchi. We'll put some damage on the Brewmaster. It is going to be a lift going the way of Ouija under the tower. He's taking quite a bit of damage. They have the Fire Blast and they're going to let it loose as the arrow falls through. It's not going to land onto anything. Mantis running very aggressively into J4, tags him with an auto tech that's disjointed by the leap and does nothing. And xGame building a Midas on their Centaur. I absolutely despise this item choice coming out from Stallcat. I suppose it's going to give you a faster heart. As far as late game items are concerned, but the Blink Dagger is such a large jump of power to be passing up for a Midas on a hero like a Centaur. I've seen Stallcat do it before. It works out decently well for him. The levels are nice on Centaur, but honestly, I don't like it. my personal opinion. We are going to see the Bounty Rune picked up by aforementioned Stallcat. Brewmaster down towards bottom. Only mana for split, not mana for clap as well as split. Potentially not getting any kills because of it. I've been focusing quite a bit on this Meepo, and rightfully so. It is a Meepo. How many times do you get to see that? Power treads are going to be the choice coming out from this Meepo as Equal as well as Reeves are going to be smoking up, potentially looking towards mid. Viper is a pretty tasty kill here. He does have a lot of points in his defensive skills, in fact maxing out the Corrosive Skin. Getting this kill on the Viper is not going to be the easiest thing for them to do so, especially with 1000 HP, but they start off with Dreamcool, follow up with the lift, pull him back in, they have a Fire Blast. They're not going to use his Equals bopping creeps. They are going to stun up Nexus, but he's not taking enough damage. Central ultimate to disengage is going to keep them safe, though Reeves, taking quite a bit of damage, is going to survive on the backlines. Centaur ultimate forced out for very little. They also spend the Dream Coil. Probably not worth it as there's a disruption down in bottom. Curse is not going to land that arrow onto Stallcat. TP attempt is going to be successful as there's nothing else to cancel this. No ultimate committed by the Brewmaster. If the arrow landed, it's dead Centaur. But the arrow doesn't land, so Centaur lives. Puck saving up for the Blink Dagger. Going to make up for the fact that the Centaur does not have his. J4 and Ouija are currently partnered up yet again. Both of these supports have a net death of 5 on both of them, but then again have been involved in just as many kills, +1 on the Shadow Demon. They've done a lot of rotations, but a lot of their rotations have blown up in their face as well. A lot of heroes rotating down towards bottom from xGame. Still no blink on Stallcat, although it's going to come out for a decent click, at least for an offlane Centaurs. He's just been able to farm so much, so maybe this Midas isn't going to hurt him all that much anyway. Probably going to have that blink probably come about 12 minutes, which honestly is not bad by any means. Let's see. Weaver is not going to be coming online either, and xGame are just feeling they want to take this one a little bit later. It's going to give Meepo a little bit more time to catch up, which is not great for them. Meepo currently stacking up one of the camps inside. They still a double stack. Shadow Demon down in bottom, looking potentially for Stallcat. He's inside the trees, not going to be hoof stomping anything as he doesn't find them. The lift, multicast onto Ouija, Zig the double edge to secure the kill. That's a dominating spree for Stallcat, and just like that, we're probably looking at an even faster Blink Dagger. Stallcat has plenty of mana to burn, although his health isn't in that great a shape. Might be forced to back off and potentially not go for this kill on Cat, especially since he does have the split. They're not going to get in range for either of the disables, lift or fire blast, and will decide to back out of there. Although the Ogre is playing very aggressively, potentially looking for a wraparound, isn't going to find it. As now eyes on Stallcat, hunting for the Meepo inside the jungle. Let's see, I am going to go ahead and check out what's going on. It's very difficult to keep track of everything at the same time, but we are going you go ahead and get back into this game. They're not going to find themselves in Meepo, just pick up a couple of camps while they're at it. Up in top might be the next place where we see something happening, as we do have a Meepo as well as Weavers facing off. The Blink Dagger on the puck is available. They are going to net up Mantis. Start right-clicking him down as Chatchula jumps in, but now it's going to be Dream Coil turned on. They're going to have plenty of damage to bring down Chatchula, especially with the Stampede coming out. And now the Viper, he's not going to break the Dream Coil. He's still taking a decent amount of damage from these bugs. We'll clean that one up as Mantis disrupted, looking for the arrow. There is no Mirana close. She's in mid currently, and that's going to mean that Mantis is going to survive fairly comfortably. 10 stick charges, even if things got really sour. Illusory Orb Jaunt up to the high ground coming out from puck will keep Wadafuck safe as well, so all said and done, it's only the pick off on the Meepo. Centaur up top is going to find himself a bounty rune, and he's going to have his Blink Dagger. Midas or not, Stallcat has been playing very well on his Centaur. As I said in the draft, a hero that they're fairly comfortable with. Invis rune on the Brewmaster might be setting up for something on Stallcat. It could be a pretty important kill, although the puck inbound as well. No Dream Coil. Could mean that this initiation isn't as clean cut as PR think it is. They're going to collapse split immediately onto Stallcat. They are going to boulder toss him up, looking for the arrow. The arrow is going to land squarely on Stallcat as Wadafuck jumps in. Might be able to finish off J4 as Stallcat is not going to be able to get off the double edge before he falls down. Now Puck, he is perched down to the ground. He's going to be netted. Boulder toss as well. Wadafuck is just taking too much damage and will fall. 2 for 1, losing his support Mirana. Definitely acceptable for PR, looking for the net. Net is going to land onto Reeves, and now the guaranteed crit. They're going to be able to poof him down. Reeves, one more auto attack is all that they need, and they're going to find it from Cheshire Cat. Viper in the meantime up on top is being aggressively gone on by Mantis as well as Equal. Time lapse comes out from Mantis to stop quite a bit of that damage. The Equal eats an arrow. 1 for 3, or rather 2 for 3, going to be the trade. Going to be heavily favoring PR, especially considering the heroes that they were able to get. Viper losing his life up in top isn't great, but then again, still going to be a beneficial trade. Chatchula now with 3 Meepos up, and now going to be working towards his Aghanim Scepter, potentially. Could also be going for a blink, is up in top. We are going to have the Mirana dying Fire Blast, and then the Weaver right clicks are going to be enough. Mantis' build this game is potentially going to take a deviation away from the Lincoln Sphere, although he might just be picking up the Void Stone here at the side shop, and he will be doing so, picking up the Perseverance, now having enough money for the Ultimate Orb. It's going to be a fairly fast Lincolns for the Weaver, coming online quite a bit faster than we usually see Weavers do. Rubik gets his hands now on the Thunderclap. Looked at the Thunderclap, I've seen worse combos, pretty solid one at that. So yeah, is going to be the rune secured by either side. Brewmaster getting his hands on the bounty, Ogre Magi getting the regeneration rune. Brewmaster splits, they have netted them a kill, and it's coming out from cooldown again in 40 seconds. The Blink Daggers galore on either side. Currently 2 on the side of xGame, 1 on the center, 1 on the puck, and 1 on the Brewmaster. These are the most crucial items, and eventually we're going to see 1 on the Meepo. Bringing out the Brewmaster down in bottom as they're potentially looking for Chatchula up on top. Blink Dagger on Stallcat going to be used. Double stomp onto both of the Meepos. Focus down the weaker one, and they will be able to secure it down. Mantis is now unstoppable. Center ultimate to disengage. Probably not necessary, although they might have been going on some other side of the map. Still, Meepo consecutively getting picked off. It is going to be a pretty sad game if you're Chatchula 1-5-3.
Radiant's top tower.
Also, quite a lot of experience going the way of xGame, killing Meepo. Naturally, a very high experience gaining hero is going to benefit xGame, and they're making quite a bit of a lead here. Now above 5,000 in the gold, and now experience in their favor at about 4,000 after all is said and done, and that graph is going to update. Reef's play in the Rubik hasn't been bad up until now, but then again, it hasn't been that great either. Nothing too flashy to steal on the enemy team. Maybe if you can get your hands onto the Brewmaster split, you can make some big plays, but other than that, Reeves isn't looking at anything along the lines of a Tide of Ravage or Black Hole. Nothing that crazy, and well off of his way towards a Blink Dagger, so yeah. Rubik, still always a solid support, but he might have been in a better position. Weaver farming his way up and towards top is going to have the Lincoln Sphere done if he's able to clean up this tier 2 tower. I don't think he will be forced back before he's able to clean it up, although putting a lot of hurt onto it because nobody on the Radiant side is actually there. Smoke coming out from Equal as well as from Reeves, potentially looking for a kill onto mid lane. They should be able to get it fairly easily as Meepo is currently poofing his way in the jungle, going to be cleaning up some jungle camps with his 2 auxiliary Meepos, and now they're looking for the Viper in mid. They do have the blink on Waterfuck. He's going to silence, then commit the Drain Coil. They're deep under the tower, but currently Fire Blast going the way we just think it's going to multicast, and now he's going to be Fade Bolted down. Double Edge as well to secure the kill. Now Nexus converged upon by 3 heroes. Stampede, and now the Weaver joining the fight. He is going to be netted up. Weaver might be in a little bit of trouble as the poof damage is ridiculous onto Equal, as well as Mantis. Mantis is lucky enough to be able to get out of there as the puck is able to jaunt away. And now, yeah, Cheshire Cat going to take quite a bit of hurt from Mantis. Nobody cancel that TP of Waterfuck. Waterfuck is going to be able to make it back to base. Fade Bolt comes back onto the Brewmasters. Mantis is still inbound, although they can't really go onto this Brew very comfortably. 1-for-1 trade, I think, after all is said and done. No, 2-for-1. They got the Shadow Demon as well. Still a beneficial one for xGame, but man, that poof damage from the Meepo is definitely something to be feared. Even without a Blink Dagger, he was still able to set up all triple poofs onto that poor Ogre Magi. And extra health regen or not, already a tanky hero, doesn't matter. You ate through that 1100 HP like butter. Let's see, we are going to have Mantis cleaning up some creeps down the bottom. Lincoln Sphere completed, and from here on out, Weaver's going to get some pretty solid damage. 17 minutes in, this is great farm for Weaver, currently at the top of the net worth chart. And with that Gloveless Haste, I'm hoping that this is going to be a Maelstrom build from Weaver. An item that I absolutely love seeing now that the Gemini attack procs those extra chances, as well as having the ability to proc as many lightning charges as you want. Not being limited by your attack speed. You can get quite a lot of damage out with that item. Weaver currently cutting the creeps, going to show his presence the way of Nexus. Both of these heroes just farming pretty comfortably next to each other. There are many heroes in reserve, at least in immediate position to jump on either of them. Although the Viper might be in some trouble, Viper Strike stolen, Fade Bolt thrown out, his center ultimate is going to be committed. It looks like it is going to be on the backlines. The fight's breaking out as they look for Stallcat. Stallcat not able to get out of there, is going to be brought down, just surrounded by too many illusions as well as too many heroes, and that is going to be the only kill that happens. Center ultimate down, not the largest cooldown to lose, but now we are going to see J4 gone aggressively on by Mantis. Takes quite a bit of damage, already at half health after one auto attack and a Gemini attack, but that's going to be all she wrote, as there's too many heroes inbound. The Meepo is also showing his face, currently 2 in mid, 1 in the jungle. Bounty rune secured by Cheshire Cat as Lincoln Sphere is popped of Mantis. Collapse comes out, as well as Gemini attack. Brewmaster getting the lesser half of that exchange. And already we're kind of seeing how well this Weaver is able to kite around the enemy team. There's just not a lot that they can do to keep him in place. This Weaver is going to have a pretty free game, and honestly, if you just went for straight damage Maelstrom before the Lincolns, I might have liked that even better. So yeah, we are going to see a mechanism completed of 4 Nexus. Still a solid item choice. Zero is going to fly wide. Mantis is going to focus on Ouija Sec as he TPs out, still taking a very hefty sum of damage. Is going to survive back in base. Just imagine if he had that hammer as the Ogre Magi is going to be the one to die. Split was used here, and Waterfuck is going to be safe. But it is still going to be a split for a kill. They try to throw the puck in the air. He's going to be able to phase shift dodge that one. It's fairly telegraphed animation on him as they jump in. The silence up Cheshire Cat. The stomp double edge is going to do quite a bit of damage to this Brewmaster, although not enough. A very tanky hero. Center ultimate will keep the Centaurs safe as Cheshire Cat's right click down. Fade Bolt from Reeves is going to secure that kill. Now the focus down in Nexus. They will be able to throw the Viper Strike his way. Now this time slowed down. They will be able to pursue with Mantis Swallow the puck. The silence to secure the kill coming out from Waterfuck, and now the tier 1 tower in mid probably going to fall to Waterfuck tanks an arrow, although there's no follow up, and he will survive on the back lines. Meepo currently farming up inside the enemy jungle, going to be poofing several of his Meepos here, there, everywhere. I believe he does have the Aghanim Scepter completed on this Meepo. A pretty good click to have these items, although not the best. It's not the worst, especially considering he's died 5 times. From here on out, Meepo's farming is going to be accelerated by quite a large margin. His puck goes very aggressively in mid, J4 almost falling. The Dagon is not delivered to the puck. He is going to face shift dodge and arrow, though he might still die. The nets are going to come out from Shashlo, a secondary net. He can't do anything, and puck is going to be brought down. If he had the Dagon, easy kill on J4. Without the Dagon, not so easy a kill, and will be giving up his life in order to secure that. Let's see. We're going to see some D-warding coming out from Reeves, as well as Stallcat. Actually, doesn't matter since that ward would have expired anyway, but 50 gold in the pocket of the Rubik is not a bad thing, especially when you're saving him for a Blink Dagger. Every little bit counts. Shashlo, currently roaming as a 4-man gank squad of 1, is going to be farming up some Ancients of his own. Nobody's really very susceptible to this Meepo, and I don't know, the Scythe of Ice as well as Blink Dagger are just going to be too long in coming for him to actually put some hurt into the Weaver. There's no way that Meepo can pop that Lincoln Sphere onto Mantis on his own, and he's going to need somebody else to do it for him. And honestly, there's not great spells on anybody else to do it. So Weaver is going to be very comfortable in these fights. Drunken Haze can pop it, Disruption can pop it, but other than that, there's not much. Mantis farming up like a boss and will be working towards his Maelstrom, having that completed after this camp is completed. Smoke coming out from Cheshire Cat as well as J4. They are going to look into the Roshan pit, not finding anything. They are going to drop a ward on the high ground. Rana going to be able to secure themselves some pretty effective vision here. Although the game has slowed down, especially after the breakneck pace that we started off with. 14 to 21. Still can't argue with how many kills we have. It's a lot of fun to watch PR as well as xGame play. Orgrimajai being pinged out in mid, currently standing very awkwardly, probably looking at some other part in the map. We are going to arrow him, and Equal is going to tank it straight in the face. They don't have enough follow-up, but here comes the cavalry, is now standing in place for 5 seconds. There is nothing he can do. It's a demonic purge, as well as the Viper's damage is going to be enough, even with the center ultimate being blown. There is going to be a Meepo Blink Dagger completed, just being able to farm incredibly fast after picking up that 4th Meepo. Down in bottom, they are roaming, Stallcat and Wadafaka potentially looking for this Brewmaster. They don't have immediate vision on him. I'm not sure where they spot out. No, they do. They have a ward spotting him in the behind as Brewmaster is brought down before he could get off anything. Meepo's currently farming up and might find himself a Wadafaka. They are going to throw out the blink. The nets are not going to be on the mark as Wadafaka is going to be able to blink towards the left and keep himself safe. Meepo is incredibly scary at this point in the game. In fact, he's getting very close to his peak. Once you have that Scythe of Ice, Meepo hardly gets any stronger. He can get tankier, sure. He gets some more damage. Ethereal Blade, a wonderful item on Meepo for the stats as well as for the active. But still, this is pretty much prime Meepo time, and getting very close towards prime Meepo time. Weaver still has plenty of room to grow. Maelstrom being delivered now is going to be quite a bit of damage. Although the magical damage isn't going to phase the Meepo as much as it would other heroes, it's still going to put a lot of hurt onto them. You can already see it's quite a bit of lightning being shut out by Mantis. Mjolnir also a pretty solid item on Weaver. Eventually we'll be picking that one up. But for his next item, I'd love to see maybe just a straight MKB. And then into something along the lines of Heart, just tanking up that much more. BKB could also keep him more or less completely safe from the Meepo in the team fights. I might consider that over the Heart. Less tank overall as far as raw HP is concerned. But then again, 10 seconds of magic immunity. You can't really argue with that, can you? So yeah, it is going to be a group up top coming out from xGame. The tier 1 towers have all been taken, save the one in mid on the Dire side. Although they can go pretty aggressively, and with the Fire Blast start things off, multicasting for good measure. Cheshire Cat did not have a chance in hell. He's going to be brought down instantly as they jump in with the Meepos. He's going to net down Equal, but he's going to be hoof stomped, and now Shachel taking too much damage. Defensive disruption will keep himself alive for now, but the Fire Blast comes through, and Okamajai securing the kill on the Meepo. This is a free tier 2 tower, and now they're going to be able to dive onto Ouija's Zek and that Maelstrom damage doing work, and now the puck jumping in with Silence to steal that kill, and now the tier 2 tower is not going to be long for this world. The other lane's pushing out. There's nothing PR can do outside of this, and Meepo, when you fully commit like that, you're at the risk of falling. Meepo overestimating his ability to tank through that damage, and xGame just had too many heroes in reserve, and the tier 2 tower in mid might also fall. They might also back off towards Roshan despite having vision around it. PR don't have the best ways to jump there, as all their tier 1 towers are down. If xGame are fast about it, they might be able to take it. Although tier 2 tower is going to be their choice of focus. Meepo is going to have that reduced cooldown timer with the level 3 ultimate. He is going to be back here pretty soon, although not soon enough. The glyph is going to delay things. He might be able to TP in, and they will be forced back xGame. Yeah, just respecting the fact that if they do take a fight on equal terms, the Meepo is still going to be a very potent threat. Sorry about that as I go ahead and check out what's going on in the stream, making sure there's no technical issues. I've done this several times, but it's for the better. I'm a solo caster right now, and it can do damage. Let's see, Vale is going to be picked up by the Ogre. Foregoing boots as Wadafaka solo kills up the poor Mirana. Gem dropped. Ooh, Puck. Who was able to secure that? The gem is picked up by Cheshire Cat, so not all is lost coming out from them. That could have been huge. Giving that gem away of xGame would more or less completely negate the Mirana ultimate, as well as taking away the map vision. That PR do have very aggressive blinks coming out from Wadafaka, disjointing a couple of those tower projectiles as well. Creeps are going to go back to the lane as haste rune from the Puck is going to make him feel more or less invulnerable. It is going to be a Puck leveling up the Dagon, however. Not a huge fan of this choice. I think Dagon level 1 is by and large the best way to go when you're going for a Puck. Although, with the Veil amplifying that damage further, it is going to put a lot of sting, especially when you're focusing on somebody like the Chatchelo. It could make the difference between him TPing out or not, but I think just going for the scythe is probably your better bet. Meepo going to poof all of his Meepo-lings back into the base. Four currently sitting there awkwardly as he eventually will start firing out. But if we take a look at the vision on the Radiant side, it is very limited. They have one ward over by the Ancients, and that's it. Their jungle is not a safe place to be, and honestly, that's where your Meepo wants to be most in this world, so you can farm that very effectively. Mantis currently inside the Roshan pit, solo, going to have a little bit of help from the Bloodlust of Equal. Reeves as well as Equal are going to start right-clicking away, but it's incredibly slow Roshan, which might actually secure it. With the lack of vision that they have, they only have one of those wards as Puck gets obliterated by Shashlo. That was too fast to cast, honestly. There was not much more. Poof, 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 poof. Like, you can't do much. There you go. Inside the Roshan pit, Space Grenade is exposed by that Puck's death, as they are going to be able to take up this Roshan for the Weaver. Mjolnir now on Mantis. That lightning damage is going to be even more, especially now that he is hitting at a very respectable 308 attack speed. Yep. You would like to see the MKB coming out from the Weaver next. Proccing the extra bash on your Gemini attack can be a pain, as well as just the raw damage, a wonderful choice for Weaver, and then you're also dealing with the Drunken Haze from the Brewmaster, if that isn't what pops your Lincoln Sphere to begin with. With the Aegis, Weaver can farm incredibly aggressively and doesn't have to worry about much of anything. Worst case scenario, as Shikuchi has time-lapse, there's very little that PR can actually do to stop all of that. One arrow might be enough to keep Weaver in place, but that's only going to happen once. Maybe they can line up the second arrow, but it's fairly unlikely. Reeves, Force Staff of his own, not going to be on the Blink train, but does have that Drift Stick. Looking down and bottom for Nexus, lift him up, multicast for good measure, double-edged, Whiff Stomp. They're not sparing anything. The Chain Stun isn't perfect, but it's not going to matter as they're able to get everything. The lockdown coming out from PR is going to be bolstered quite a bit by the Scythe pickup on the Brewmaster. The runes are going to be both secured. Ogre Magi getting the double rune down in bottom. It is going to be tier 3 tower, or tier 2, excuse me, falling away of xGame. Not much more you can say there. Ogre Magi was rocking the bottle, so I didn't actually see where the other rune was. Looks like it was picked up by ESFX. No. ESFX currently, oh, excuse me, Cheshla. ESFX is a streaming platform, also running the Yard Red Festival. Tier 3 tower down and bottom is also going to take a lot of heavy pressures. The Meepo doesn't have anybody back in base. Probably should consider TPing back. I believe that is his Meepo Prime, does have a TP, and is not bringing it back towards base. Lincoln Sphere's Popeye disruption by the Shadow Demon is going to be pretty nice in order to take that off. But Tier 3 Tower is already down to half health, and with an Aegis, they actually don't care. As on the backlines, they jump in and obliterate the Shadow Demon. The burst from the Puck is too large, as the split does come out from the Brewmaster, is able to bring down the Rubik, throws the Weaver up in the air. Better to ignore him than actually try to focus him down. They're looking for anything they can find. They're not able to throw anybody additional up in the air. Mantis is going to lose his Aegis, however. It is Pop. The Whiff Stomp goes into Shashlo. Shashlo's taking too much damage with the Veil on top of him. The air is not going to land, but they will get the kill on the Meepo in the end. Mantis is able to right-click him down. The Lincoln Sphere Pop. Mantis needs to get out of there. Fire Blast going the way of Cheshire Cat. Still a worthy trade, especially with the buyback coming up from the Meepo. They might be able to get Equal as well. Mantis is still hanging around. Mantis is a very aggressive positioning. Is he trying to save Equal? He will potentially be able to secure Equal's retreat. Equal is walking incredibly slow. He's going to be netted down. The arrow misses, but that does not matter. The poofs are going to poof. And Meepo gets himself a kill on the Ogre Magi. Still, good trade for xGame. They force out the buyback on the Meepo, and that side device is going to be quite a large way away. 9 is 69 gold on the side of PR, and this is only in the last exchange with the Meepo buying back for the 2 kills. If you take the exchange earlier, that's going to be half damage on tier 3 tower, as well as a couple of kills previous. So, xGame, going to be happy despite losing a lot. The Aegis was lost as well, but that's what it's there for. Mantis is going to be pretty happy that he used that. Or not happy that he used that, but not going to be unhappy he used that, rather. 3,500 gold on your Weaver. Might be considering BKB as his next item, since he did complete up the full Mjolnir. I don't know. It's looking really good for xGame right now. There's just not a lot the PR can do about this Weaver. They killed him once, and that's great, but I've kind of already covered, like, how that's going to be problematic for them. Ogre Magi with the phase boots now, a little bit of extra mobility. Chashlo is currently farming up a storm inside his own jungle, splitting up into 3 different groups, 2, 2, and 1, as Meepo Prime is going to be just scouting out, sticking around with the rest of the team. With the Blink Dagger, he doesn't actually have to worry that much about this one. BKB is the choice from the Weaver. Definitely can't argue with it. BKB, a wonderful item, and already has a decent amount of damage from the Mjolnir, and it's not going to make him regret the fact that he has the BKB. He can still dish in that 10 seconds, which is the biggest problem when you go Lincoln's BKB on Weaver, but he has something on top of it, which is really going to help him out. And it's a full item that the Meepo isn't even going to be considering. Meepo's net worth right now is not that great for 30 minutes in. He'd like to be completing up the Scythe. Stallcat surviving. I believe he was just farming pretty aggressively with the double edge to get this low, and as I mentioned earlier on, the Hand of Midas is going to accelerate his heart timing after going for Blink and Force Staff. He is going to back off for aforementioned item, taking up quite a bit. This Midas is actually paying off for the Centaur by quite a large margin. Because the Weaver is soaking up a lot of the farm from the map, he actually doesn't have to worry about stealing anything away from Mantis. The Midas might be benefiting the Weaver more than is the Centaur, but heck, that's what it's there for. 31-minute heart, definitely not anything to scoff at after you go for so many utility items. Centaurs are going to be farmed up by Mantis. This might be another good time to check out the graphs. It's still going to be a fairly hefty advantage towards xGame, despite yo-yoing back a little bit towards PR in the middle of one of that fight. That was, I believe, just one fight all isolated together. The experience isn't that much in the favor of xGame, mostly because of the Meepo sucking a lot of that off of the map, but still, if you look at these supports, 9 and 11 are the levels on the Rana and Shadow Demon, and honestly, that's not that great. But they don't scale that incredibly well with supports. If you have some under-leveled supports, Shadow Demon and Rana are pretty good ones to have. Arrow, Disruption, Purge are always going to be pretty solid tools. Centaur Mjolnired up. This is the scariest target to throw that Mjolnir charge on. Now he's an incredibly large Centaur. This bug is also going to be huge once he has Bloodlust as well as BKB on him. Expect him to be the scariest cockroach you've ever seen. And into the tier 3 tower, we're going to see xGame push yet again. Meepo, no Scythe on him, but we do have that Scythe on the Brewmaster. On the sidelines, they are going to throw the ultimate the way of Mantis. He is not going to be slowed down. The Central ultimate comes through as well as does the split. Brewmaster is not going to be able to find anybody immediately, but does throw the Ogre up in the air. Ogre probably going to die as the arrow actually misses completely. It wasn't perched down to the ground. Equal now Purge will be fire blasting away at Nexus as Shashlo does bring all of his Meepos, but they're hoof stomped up. They're focusing him down too much. The Meepo's going to fall. They do get the Ogre, but it doesn't matter. There is the Meepo death godlike spree for Mantis. Brewmaster rejoins himself and blinks away towards the left. Is going to survive. They make some illusions of the Centaurs. Now they focus down Ouija Zik, who is just dead. Now the tier 3 tower is going to fall. No buyback on the Meepo, no buyback on the Viper, not on the Morana, not on the Shadow Demon. Brewmaster solo against this. This is at the very least one set of racks going the way of xGame. And it's probably going to be a tad bit more, although they don't have the tier 2 tower in mid, which might force them to back off and go for that mid push. They might not be able to get the full lane of racks, but tier 2, tier 3 isn't out of the question. At the very least, they can take this tier 2. Roshan timer, don't actually know exactly when it's going to come back up, but will do in about 30 seconds, and at the fastest, it could be in a minute and a half, which would be wonderful for xGame, and even if it's longer, there's not much pressure on them. The Weaver is only going to get stronger from here on out, and once you have a stacked Weaver up against the Meepo, focusing down those Meepo clones is incredibly easy with the vast amount of single target physical burst, which is exactly what the doctor ordered when you're dealing with the Meep. We are going to see the Ancients being farmed up by Mantis. They won't be able to go for that tier 3 tower, but the tier 2 is ripped in pieces. Yeah, the splits from the Brewmaster have been fairly lackluster. He's able to micro pretty effectively. Honestly, I'm not sure if it's enough, though. Cheshire Cat's time to shine is completely over now that we have BKB on the Weaver. It was used in the last fight, but still 9 seconds is more than enough for Mantis to kill everything. Central Ultimate being deployed as they go on the sidelines. They find themselves a Shashlo, and Shashlo is going to die. The burst damage is too much. The Fire Blast, the Daggons, it's going to spell his demise. Cheshire Cat does get the split off. Stallcat being focused down, taking quite a bit, but they're also focused down these Brewmaster minions. Stallcat is going to be forced to back off. He does have the Force Staff in order to do so. Viper Strike on the backlines, it might be enough to get him as J4 is being focused down. Will be able to leap away. The Urn Charge might take him down. The Ogre as well as Centaur are going to die. The Dagon on the puck, he's going to be able to find himself a kill on the Shadow Demon Arrow. Going to land on the puck as the Marana also dies. 3 for 3 the trade. A lot better than I thought it would go, but now Mantis is wreaking havoc. The Brewmaster is going to fall, and now the only survivor is Viper under the guise of Moonlight Shadow. Primal Split stolen by the Rubik. They can still go. Buyback only available for the Shadow Demon. 23 seconds up for the Meepo. Luckily enough, they have that 30-second reduced respawn timer on him because it is a Meepo. If it was any other hero, I'd say that's at least Mega Creeps. And Meepo does have buyback available when he does come back. If he doesn't lose too much gold, I haven't actually checked how much unreliable he has. He probably won't have it, actually. Brewmaster is going to use that ultimate and start wreaking some havoc on the backlines. Throw that Viper up in the air. There you go. Have fun, Viper, flying in your Cyclone of Doom. The Wind Panda is going to die, but it's going to time out sooner rather than later. Anyway, Shatchel jumps in, but it's unable to get Mantis, and Shatchel needs to be careful. The uphill misses are going to save him for now, and he's not taking enough damage. Reeves is going to survive, but the Viper Strike Force Staff is not going to save you here, as Reeves is going to fall, netted down to place. He is going to be brought down. Mantis is going to be able to scurry himself away. Arrow is going to time out before even getting close to hitting this little Bug, and Bug is on 5,000 gold. It's going to have quite a bit. Smoke of Deceit is fed the way of PR. Believe they did pick that one up on J4, but then again, let's see, where did the gem actually end up? It is also in J4's possession. Unfortunate for Reeves, going to be losing a little bit of consumables as well as the gem going back the way of PR. Was J4's gem to begin with. Will keep them in vision of the Weaver. They buy a gem for themselves as Rubik finds himself with a cool 900 gold sitting in his base, so he is going to go ahead and blow that onto the Gem of True Sight. Very useful for him. Meepo now with that Sight device might be able to burst down Mantis, but Mantis with the BKB, I'm still not sure. They need Mantis to misplay, and when you're hoping for somebody to misplay, that's not great. In fact, Mantis' next item, throw MKB to the wind. It's going to be a full Daedalus for Mantis, selling, I believe, his Wraith Band, and going to be shipping that Daedalus out to himself. The Roshan is going to be scouted. PR currently inside the pit. They're all smoked up. Shatchel can more or less solo this one, although it's not a great place for them to fight. It's going to be fast enough for Roshan to where it doesn't matter. Already down to half health. The Geostrike's working big, as well as just the amount of damage. I believe xGame know this is happening as the puck might jump into the pit. He is not going to jaunt. They jump in for the hoof stomp. It's going to land in the Meepos as well as Cheshire Cat. The puck also went over there. He's inside the bubble. Stallcat comes back. He's being focused down by Shatchel. The split comes out. Rubik is going to steal himself Drunken Haze. That's really good up against the Meepos. Mantis is just ripping them to shreds. Shatchel being focused down. Shatchel to fall. The Aegis is going to come out as they try to look for any lockdown for Mantis. They just can't find it. Multicast onto Nexus. Nexus isn't taking enough damage as the boulder goes away of the Ogre Giant on the sidelines. Ogre is going to fall. Viper Strike, he is going to die. Is up in the high ground. Puck is not going to be able to escape from Shatchel's damage. Buyback from the puck. Not able to jaunt into here, but they still have the tier 2 tower as now Mantis is focused down Nexus, and the crit on the Gemini attack is going to be enough. Multicast triple times onto Cheshire Cat. Cheshire Cat's going to be the next one to fall. Viper Strike stolen. Meepo the only survivor looking for the kill on the Reeves, but he might just have secured his fate as now the crits are going to come out. The double crit on the Gemini attack. That's going to be everybody down on the side of PR, and Reeves survives within inches of his life. It is going to be a huge teamfight win for xGame, despite getting the Roshan as well as the Aegis for the Meepo. It doesn't matter. PR is still losing too much. Buyback is on the Meepo, and I think he's going to be forced to use it. But maybe they've just given up 2,400 net worth onto Mantis. Mantis has not a care in the world. They find themselves Cheshire Cat. Defense disruption will save his life, but only for a little bit. The Hex comes out onto a creep, and while they jump in, they might be able to find this kill on the Mantis. He's surrounded by too many Meepos. Timeouts gets come out, and the Shikuchi's going to keep him safe. They weren't able to net him down in place. Now Equal will be brought down in the spot of the Weaver. Gem of True Sight, now double gems going the way of the Radiant. His puck's going to jaunt away. Didn't actually see where he bounced to. He's currently on the very back lines of the fight. xGame will lose a couple, but then again, it still costs PR, I believe, at least the buyback on the Brewmaster, and probably the one from the Meepo, and yes, it did. So despite looking like a win on paper, they get 2 kills for nothing. It's still a teamfight win for xGame because all they lose is their supports. Earlier, Wadafaka was forced into buying back, but it doesn't phase Wadafaka that much. His item progression towards the scythe, it would be wonderful to have, but honestly, this Weaver is the king of the court. Look at his net worth. He's almost doubling up the Meepo. At this point in the game, that's incredibly scary. 2,400 net worth on a Weaver is a wonderful, wonderful place to be if you're xGame. So yeah, Meepo is still not out of this, still able to do a lot of hurt with just the scythe. This is where Meepo is strongest, but it's like 15 minutes over the hill for Meepo, to be honest. Yeah, especially when you look at a Weaver net worth that would look fine in 50 minutes in. Still, he's the only one that's actually able to keep the farm, and most importantly, Meepo's been forced to buy back, I think is your biggest issue. Stallcat with the heart, and now working towards, presumably, a Shiva's Guard, maybe an AC, is going to be taking up even more. The physical damage from the Meepo isn't where it's scariest, it's mostly magical, coming out from Geostrike as well as the poofs. Yeah, Roshan's not going to be up for quite a large sum of time, at the very least 5 minutes. But still, it's pretty crazy. Mantis, I haven't actually talked about Bloodlust very much this game. The movement speed is more or less wasted on Weaver. It can be nice, but more than anything, it's going to be that free Hyperstone, I think is the best way to put it. It's a little bit less attack speed than a Hyperstone, but for all intents and purposes, it's the same thing. And Hyperstone on a Weaver is a wonderful 6 slot to have, especially when you're hitting with that Dayless. Next item for me, I would say, is MKB, almost without a doubt. Avoiding that Drunken Haze from the Brewmaster, as well as being able to crit him down, and just having the raw damage. Heck, if Weaver wants to go for a second crit, all the power to him. Just get more damage, Mantis. They can't kill you. Heart, if you really want to make sure you're never going to die, ever. But, you know, that could also be a thing. Whatever it is, Mantis is going to be a force to be reckoned with. And into the base they go. They're realizing that PR are nowhere to be found, potentially looking for a smoke gank inside the enemy woods, but they're going to lose their Raxverse. Trying to TP back, it's going to be too late. All of them are missing. The melee barracks are already down. They will be able to glyph this up and delay a little bit. The Meepo's the one back in the base, and xGame are going to respect the fact that Meepo could be there and could be jumping onto them, but the melee barracks is already too low, and xGame are in a decent position to fight. Let's see, Mantis invised up, going to have another Bloodlust on the sidelines. Not spotted out by anything. The initiation advantage is in the favor of xGame, with 4 staff into Fire Blast as well as just Centaur, and they're just going to right-click down these barracks. Who cares? That's one barracks down with no initiation. Here comes the Brewmaster. Blink Split is able to get it off, but it's not going to do anything. Centaur ultimate to disengage. The Brewmaster can't chase this one up. Stallcat might get caught out, but the 4 staffs are going to be enough to keep himself safe. The supports are also going to make their way out on the sidelines. Racks for nothing. Brewmaster split down. PR's ability to fight has dropped tremendously. xGame, smoke up. This is the right move. Go find yourself a pickoff, and if you find a pickoff, it's almost certainly done. Even if the Shadow Demon's the one to die, or the Mirana, doesn't matter. You're still fighting 5v4, and when you have this amount of advantage, it's ridiculous. They jump in, hoof stomp, only going to land Chester Cat, but then again, Chester Cat might be enough. Ouija Stick, almost instantly dying just to the silence from the puck, is going to be crit down by the Weaver. Now focusing down Chester Cat. He is getting quite a couple of lucky misses on this Weaver, but Mantis, with that BKB, has not a care in the world. They hex up Wadafaka, and with the invis, they are able to keep the Brewmaster alive, just barely inside the base. The Ignite almost doing the trick. One more auto attack would have been enough, as now the Centaur looking potentially for Shachlo. They are going to focus down this range barracks. Range barracks is going to take 3 auto attacks from the Weaver if you count the Gemini attack in the middle of the 2. And, well, xGame commit very little to that fight and still come away with the barracks. They get a kill on the Shadow Demon. To top it all off, they're still looking wonderful. Aragorn Glenn has Stallcat. He's a tanky Centaur. He doesn't care. Does have the Heart of Regen. Heart of Tarask Regen, I should say. But yeah, 2-3 tower up and top is now looking mighty tasty for xGame. Despite having their full lineup available, they can just make these illusions. It's not as nice as having illusions of a Luna, but they'll be able to tank a couple of these tower shots pretty effectively. Lincoln Sphere popped. Viper Strike going the way of the Weaver is going to be disjointed by the invis of Shikuchi. xGame are still in a pretty solid spot. We are going to have the disruption again onto the Weaver, and slowly but surely this last lane is not going to be a very comfortable place for PR. Their bottom 2 lanes are already pushing very heavily, and at the very least it's denying some golden experience away of this Meepo. Experience doesn't matter, he's level 25, but the gold from those mega creeps is pretty severely reduced. It is going to be an assault cuirass for your Centaur Warrior. Now with that completed, the Weaver's physical damage is going through the roof. Meepo does have quite a hefty sum of armor, currently sitting at 16 or 18, depending on whether or not he has the Basilius or on him. Double damage rune available for Mantis, as well as having another Demon Edge. Mantis is so scary. If he crits right now, it might just insta-get one of these supports. If he gets a double crit, and heck, even 1 crit, might be enough to do in the Shadow Doom with only 1,000 HP. Yeah, 1 crit and a Gemini attack will kill him. Yeah, not a happy place, not a happy place. Ancients are not there for Mantis. He is going to be able to get Shuchi off. The center ultimate also going to keep himself safe. They drop the split for this, but Salcat is not taking that much damage with the heart. They're not focusing with the Meepo. They are going to jump up, and now Waterfucker gets a nice Drain Coil onto a lot of the Brewlings. The Hoofstomp to follow up. They're not focusing down these Meepos. Where is the Weaver in all of this? He's now joining the fight. Will be able to focus down the Shadow Demon Beyond God. Like, there's the Meepo dead, and there's the Viper. Brewmaster, only survivor, and him only just going to be able to make it out in the backlines. Blink away will probably keep himself safe, but at what cost? Their barracks are almost doomed to fall. Buyback available on the Meepo, but I think that xGame have done this in the game number 1. Focusing on the huts, they don't care. Their creeps are up, breaching the high ground. The Weaver's just going to go for high ground, or for the jugular here, as they go for the tier 4 towers. Meepo's not going to buy back. This is more or less completely conceding it from PR in a fairly exciting game number 1. A whole lot of action, although it died down at the end. Cheshire Cat's going to be bursted down inside the wall. Buyback to the Meepo. That might just be a dieback. He will be saved by the bell as the Ancient explodes. That said, this is the Join Dota League Finals here on twitch.tv/HeflaMilk, the 3rd English channel of HeflaTV. If you like the casting, follow us on Twitter and Facebook at HeflaTV. I'm GrandisV. If you like my casting personally, I'm on Twitter as well as on Twitch at GrandisV. That said, there is going to be at least one more game. If game number 3 happens, it will be tomorrow at the same time. If PR are able to take the victory, and even if none of that happens, and we are going to go into another series of PR afterwards, so stay tuned. I'll tell you the details on that stream later on, so see you soon for game number 2.